Hey everybody, Leah Klett here with the Christian Post. My guest today is director Dean DeBlois. We are talking about his brand new film, a live action version of How to Train Your Dragon, and some of the deeper themes behind the story. Fantastic movie. I was blown away. My
Thank you.
kids were blown away. All the kids in the theater were blown away. It's so good.
Thank you. Thank you. That's what I love to hear. We tried to make a crowd pleaser for the whole family.
That's exactly what it is. And one thing I really love is that you preserve this central theme of redemption that's in the original How to Train Your Dragon and this idea of transformation and grace and redemption in your storytelling.
Oh, thank you. I mean, that is very central to the story because Hiccup is a character who kind of leads with empathy and compassion in a world where strength is defined by other attributes, forcefulness and tradition. So I think that Hiccup presents as kind of this disappointment in the eyes of his father. He just can't seem to follow in the tradition of what's expected. There is there is there is love there in the push and pull of expectation and being part of the family, and yet Hiccup can't help himself but, you know, f- follow his heart and find a new way forward by befriending an enemy, a perceived enemy, and discover a whole new solution to their problem that can put to rest an age-old conflict. And I think that for Stoic becomes a very humbling experience because he has this enlightened moment where he starts to see in his son a peaceful way forward and not something that he would have considered in the past. So there are lessons being learned both from a parental point of view, but also in Hiccup's case, he's a hero for all of those outsiders who don't quite fit in, just sort of marching to the beat of his own drum, following his heart, being compassionate and kind of leading the way forward and letting the world evolve around, to embrace him for what he is.
As a filmmaker, how do you approach that tension between darkness and light, especially in a film meant for families? Because obviously there's real danger in Burke, but there's also such joy and hope. Talk about capturing that tension.
Yeah, I think that is the balance. So many of the films that were indelible in my childhood and influenced me as a storyteller had that balance of darkness and light. There were moments that were tense and emotional, but there was joy and there was wonder, and we tried to give kind of healthy helpings of both. Definitely wonder is what defines this movie, and we see that very rarely, I think, these days in films. But this is a world with consequence, and lessons must be learned sometimes the hard way. And there is loss. There is sacrifice that comes with heroism. And so we just try to balance those things in a way that you can take the audience to kind of a dark place so long as you bring them back and you make it ultimately a joyful experience and one that's very life affirming.
Yeah, you once said that animation gives you the room to explore big feelings. How did live action allow you to explore differently, both emotionally and spiritually?
I think the wonderful thing about live action, which differs from animation, is that there is a point where you prepare and you prepare and you rehearse and you build sets and wonderful costumes and talk the actors through what you want out of a scene, but then you hand it off to them. And as a director, you sit back and stop trying to control everything and allow this sort of rhythm and cadence and honesty to come through. And so that's what you're watching for. You're watching for the truth to emerge. And with live action actors embodying their roles, there's so much more nuance and emotion that comes through. If they're really committed to their characters and they're really playing the scene, which we absolutely had in spades, there is just such a warmth and a connection, a human connection that comes through in this medium that defines it, that gives it that edge over animation where we manipulate so much of what's on frame, even in the vocal performance.
Your films have always celebrated the beauty of the outsider. Why do you think that message resonates so deeply right now, especially with younger audiences?
Well, I think just from a personal point of view, I was an outsider, and so I connect with characters who feel like they were cut of a different cloth and they have a harder time assimilating and living up to expectations, whether they be from within your family or your friend circle or society at large. And there is something that is quite validating about a character like Hiccup, who has the bravery to withstand ridicule and to withstand mockery and still follow his heart and still lead with compassion. He becomes a teaching hero by simply being who he is and letting the world change around him, as opposed to constantly trying to change who he is to meet someone else's expectation.
I really enjoyed the film. Thank you again for making it. My kids loved it. I loved it. I mean, which
Thank
is a
you.
rare feat in the world of cinematography.
Thank
So
you.
great job.
That was our goal. That was our goal. It does feel like a rare thing these days for a movie to deliver on that. I always think like it was an 80s aesthetic where you had movies that were so full of wonder and adventure, but joy. Um, and and so that's what we're trying to bring. It's this kind of this retro feel of a good family movie that sticks with you.
With slightly better graphics.
Yes. We'll see. In 10 years, this will look dated as well.